Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Well, I am here to answer your questions, and we never know what questions are going to come. So this week it's going to be on the magical and the mystical, the gray information, and talking about various things that people don't often talk about. So I hope you're going to find this one interesting. It begins with a question from Manuela. And here's her question. My question is about magic. I try to cultivate a deep connection to Mother Earth. One of the reasons why I love human design, look where it came from. And a magic view on the world. Magic for me is about the material plane and about nature. But human design gave me, until today, the answer to all questions, also those asked long ago. So it should tell me something about magic. Now, I listened to the design of forms, and especially the inanimate form from Ra, and it gave me chills. It makes so much sense. I was really wondering why magic should be about the inanimate. My question, my dog died 9 days ago, and I held her dead body, petting it for 40 minutes. Was it inanimate at that moment, or when is the time? Funny that I'm an object maker. I make custom Waldorf dolls for over 18 years and love goddess forms from copper wire and stuff like that. And I wonder, is there more information about that special topic? I feel like there's only a small layer between me and the answer to my question. But maybe it's my mind speaking from my open ajna, which wants nothing more than certainty, instead of floating in the ocean of possibilities. I think you're the only one in the human design world I can ask about that. Okay, Manuela, thank you for that question. It has certainly created the framework for this week's video. It centers around the 25th gate, and the 25th gate, the gate of blood, is also part of the mystical way. It is the gate of the shaman and the priestess. It is a opening to a new dimension, if you like. That's the way I see it. And it demands that one is innocent in that process. And it really makes you think about what innocence is. And to answer your question about why is magic in the inanimate? So before we get to the timing and the question about when the spirit left the dog's body, let us just think about this for a minute. In the mystical way, we begin with the channel of synthesis, the 1949, the channel of marriage and divorce. It leads into community, it leads into family. And after family, what is there? Well, after family, there is this jump into something else. And in some cultures, it's already there. In the sannyasin culture in India, that at around 50, the man leaves the family and goes off on his own spiritual journey. It is an opening to a new dimension. And what is it? What is the inanimate? Everything has a consciousness, even the inanimate. What is matter? We know matter isn't solid. What is the source of matter? Well, if I was to put it in a word, it would be light. Light becomes before the form. It's not separated from it. So the animate contains a great deal. You can see in universal love, you can see the way that one can love something that is not animate. It's part of, it can be used as part of a ritual. It can be used as part of a way to attract the forces. I mean, it's something that you know very well. I mean, I've looked at your chart. You know it very well. It's in your very bones. So this connection to something more, if I put it that way, this connection to something more coming from the inanimate. And if you want a clear example of it, then think about the concept of baraka, when someone has worn something for decades and it's always been like Ra and his silver belt, for example. You know, it contains part of his baraka, part of his essence when you hold it, as it does for, you know, the religious relics from dead saints. You know, there's a whole business made out of that because of what is left in the inanimate after it's been in contact with someone who is spiritually more available. And even those that are not spiritually available, it's still their energy can be held in objects. There are many forms of investigation into that. But it makes one think about what life is all about also. I mean, that is the wonderful thing about this incarnation business, is that we are here incarnated into a particular form. And yet there is always going to be a time when we leave the form, when the personality crystal leaves and goes to the crystal bundles in the sky, and when the design crystal goes back into the mantle of the earth. So it's in human design, it's in all spiritual traditions. And of course, it is a fact. You know, if you're going to be alive, you're going to die at some point. But mostly we are under so much pressure to survive in the material realm that people don't give it much thought, especially in these times when we are in a kind of rationalist, skeptical age, cut off from the natural world that you and I love, cut off from honoring the magic that is everywhere, that you know and I know. You know, it takes one to go in order to recognize that, to be one with that, to acknowledge that, to be in the wonder of being itself. So the inanimate is in a way an example of this universal love without an agenda, to remain innocent, to be able to withstand all the shocks that can come, all the tests that can come, to test the innocence, the openness of the spirit. They are everywhere, distractions everywhere. And yet there comes a time when all those disappear. And often it's a time of death or before death. So now we come to your dear dog's death. You were holding her body for 40 minutes and you ask, when did the spirit leave? When was there this separation between the living spirit of your dog and the body? And I suspect you know that. I do. It's well within your capability to know that. In my experience, I've been around dead bodies in different times, in different ways, and I can't tie it to a set timing. Ra never gave a set time. He talked about the picking up of the personality crystal sometime within a 3-day period, when he talked about the bardo states. But of course, time itself is an illusion. It really is. I suspect in the next couple of decades, we're going to be learning a lot more about time and revealing what's beneath a lot of the lies that are out there about it. Many things happen. When a death happens, a portal opens. I have been fortunate enough to witness and see that, and it was beyond my imagination. There is an invitation to become more aware at the moment of death, to your surroundings and what is left behind, or the vibration that comes through you when you've lost a loved one. You know, what are you picking up now? Because they have gone, or at least they're not animating the body anymore. But it doesn't mean they've necessarily gone that far at the time of death. Now, I cannot speak for your dog. I think it would be interesting, if you know the time of death, to look at the transit of when your dog died, and that might bring in other information. But I don't know that, so I can't really comment on it. I will say that it's no surprise to me that the inanimate is full of magic, because after all, it is. It is. It is. Then the natural world is full of magic everywhere. And we're going to come back to that in another question, which is going to make you think about it in another way. Regarding your question about timing, it kind of makes sense. You know, you've got a 17th gate in a completely open mental system. And so time has always been a bit of a mystery for you anyway, I would imagine. You know, you think you're going to be on time, but you're not, because something happened that you didn't think about or whatever. It's something that happens, and in other places in your chart. So the question coming to me from you is not a surprise regarding time. But there are other forces involved that humans are not privy to, not in the normal sense. It's only when you are more aware of the subtle energies, when you have done enough inner work, when you have experienced enough things in your life, that you can attune to more of what's going on around you than we are normally aware of. And yes, it comes in times of death. And yes, it comes in times of shock. It's one of those times when we're more open to more of what we actually are as human beings. So I can't give you a calculation. I will think about it, though. There are a number of things to consider, and I would have to do a lot of testing. And I'm not going to say anything that I'm not sure of, because I'm a 1-3. We are not privy to all the information. That doesn't mean we can't work it out, but you'd have to focus on it, and then you'd have to test it. And it's not like there are people dying around us all the time, or animals dying around us all the time. So I can't give you a formula. I can't give you a calculation to check. I will say that you are probably more aware of exactly when there was a separation between your dog's body and your dog's essence. And if you think back to what happened in that time, you may be able to tune into it again. These things can be tuned into later on. But I want to continue with the theme of magic into the next two questions, because it's something to consider. It's something that's really very important that most people don't think about. So thank you for your question. I love that you are deeply connected to nature and have become aware of the magic that's in there. And but let's now go to the next question, and I'll see if I can broaden it out a bit. So the next question is from the Allure Academy, one of our regulars, and this is their question. From cycles to the quarters, did you mention that cycles are like the weather? Does every cycle affect last 7 years? Also, can you shed some light on the Quarter of Mutation, purpose fulfilled through transformation? Ra did mention the need for patience through this quarter. To me, it feels like an in-between phase, and it's getting tiring, almost like structure is an illusion, and my nervous system is waiting for the other shoe to drop. So to answer the first question regarding cycles, no, the cycles are different times depending on the planet involved. So no, not all the cycles are 7 years, although from a physical point of view, most of the cells in the body are changed over into a 7-year cycle. But Saturn is a 29-year cycle, roughly. The Uranus is 84 years as a cycle. But of course, in the Uranus opposition, it's usually around 42. And the current cycle usually is about 50 years. So you do have cycles coming in, and they can overlap, and you have to consider the whole movement of the life. So that's just very briefly what I have to say about it. The Saturn cycle goes on, and then Uranus comes in, and that becomes, an important part of the next movement. And then you move into Chiron, which then opens up the way for healing and flowering. And then you get the second Saturn return cycle, usually around 56, which is really beginning another whole new life, or it can be. When you ask about the Quarter of Mutation, a life fulfilled through transformation, I want you to look at the wheel, and I want you to see that the different quarters, yes, they will tell you something about your purpose in life. So, for example, in the Quarter of Initiation, life has to be interesting because it's the quarter of the mind penetrating into matter, penetrating into what's going on. When we come to the Quarter of Mutation, we are talking about transformation, but it's also representative of the time of us dying, in a way, the beginning of death. Like anyone, like myself, who has been born in the Quarter of Mutation, has always been aware that time is running out, making this incarnation count. It's people from that quarter want to really make a difference. They want to really live this incarnation. And you can see that in the first 4 gates that begin it. It starts with the strongest of all. It's like 6 yang lines. The first gate begins that cycle. It tells you it's mutative because of the individuality of the first gate. This begins it. It moves into the gate of insight in the 43rd gate, what I call a potential multidimensional awareness. And it moves into the 14, the power to be able to empower a unique vision, which is basically a vision that will take you into yourself in the way that I read it. And then it moves into the 34, that energy of raw power. It's like, get on with it, do what you love, do what you love. And then it moves on. So there's all kinds of things in the gates itself for you to think about when you think about mutation, but also think about it as the last stage of a human life, if you want, because it can also be applied there. And the wheel is such a beautiful, beautiful, perfect way of seeing the way things are. And now to put it into context, both the first and the second question, we have a lovely statement from one of our readers who is 82 years old. And this is what she says. As an 82-year-old 6'2" MG, emotional authority, who also has the 1 line 6 sun in the left angle cross of defiance, the periods of my life, whether Saturn returns, Uranus opposition, or Chiron return, were in hindsight where some of the greatest support came in. Trust in life and oneself. It comes. Our inner lives can be very fulfilling, even an adventure with no audience expected and none required. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. When you really think about what she's saying as a role model, it's like you come to a point in life where it's not about the doing anymore. It's much more about the witnessing. It's much more about what human design has been trying to get us to see all this time, to just be the witness of what is going on, not to try to control it, not to think we can control it. We can't. We can't. And I want to give you an example. Imagine you are out in nature. Maybe Manuela's out in nature, and she's sitting quietly and the sun is there and she's deeply in her internal state and the wind comes. Well, you can think about it all you like about, I wish the wind wasn't there. I wish it would go away or whatever. But the point is the wind comes and the wind goes. And what are you going to do about it? You're just going to experience it because there is nothing you can do. You can know that whatever is going on in that moment is what is supposed to go on, and you are part of it. In the same way as we approach death, there are many things where you're no longer interested in them. They're not relevant to your own inner process, to your own inner awareness that's growing. Nature brings in the mystical, it brings in the magic, and your state in there, your state of being, whether you can truly be a witness of what's going on, makes all the difference to the quality of the life, to the purpose being fulfilled in your life, taught by the Quarter of Transformation. And again, if you go through those gates in that quarter, you'll see what I mean. It brings in the 61st gate of inner truth, that truth that is ineffable, that cannot be spoken, can only be experienced, it can only be known. And the 60th gate, my personality sun gate. And in one of his lectures, Ra talked about the 60th gate, and he goes, well, there comes a point when there is nothing to do, and you just have to wait until the axe falls. I mean, he had a very black sense of humor. And I'm a busy creature, as you can see from what I've been up to in the last few years. I'm busy, 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 and loving life and loving getting my teeth into things that I can really struggle through and get out the other end. But there are also times in my life where there is no doing, and they are some of the most spectacular times. You know, we don't have to keep going on as robots. We must have time to step back from all the madness of the mind, from all the madness of the world out there. And these questions for this week really speak to that, and speak to the deeper essence of what it is to live as a human being, to animate the vessel that we're in, and to get out of the bloody way. That's the whole point. You may try to use human design for your own desires, for your own goals, for your own objectives. And to a greater or lesser extent, it can be useful. But it's not the real point. The real point is to come to oneself, just as it's the real point in the Quarter of Mutation. So this spiritual dimension that we started on with the inanimate at the beginning, it is a whole nother area to know that that is within each one of ours ability to connect to. And the more you can step back as a witness and let the decisions be made through the form, the easier it is to tap into that other dimension of what it is to be alive. And death and shock and all the things that life brings to us gives us a chance in the glimpses to be able to be cognizant of more. And the funny thing is, it is this breaking down of the cross of planning and us all moving into the sleeping phoenix time that really brings me a lot of hope, because we have been so highly conditioned, and we have been told so many lies, and we have been cut off from the natural world to an inhuman extent, and we have all suffered as a result of this. And yet, you know, civilizations come and go, but the truth is always the truth. So think about the cycles that we go through in our life, the Saturn return, the Uranus opposition, and the Chiron, etc. Think about that there are cycles. Think about that there are world cycles and long periods of time, epochs, you know, and everything is kind of there in the system, in the mechanics, if you look at the big, big, big picture over that kind of time scale, you can more clearly see the program that human design speaks about. But we are here now, in this particular time, in this particular form, for the first and only time. What an opportunity to be able to perceive this world and to experience this in a way that only you can. It's incredible. Now, whether that can be shared or whether there are people to hear it, in the older times, there were times when that would be the case, but we've come such a long way away from our nature that you need someone like Rahu to come back and point it out. Look, this is where we went wrong. We're too much up here. Here's a strategy that will help bring you back to see things from your right perspective, according to you individually. Because at the end of the day, each one of us live our own lives. And that's kind of the point. To just live your life as you are. Simple, really. In a way, it's easier to grasp from the sixth line point of view, the inherent wisdom within 6 lines. As they go through their life, when they get to the point when they're 82, they can really see that, eventually everything is nothing. It just depends on how far you step back. The very fact, to go back to the first question, the very fact that the 25 is so full of magic tells us right there that this world is not the material world we think it is, and we live as if it is. So it is the connection, however you get there, to the larger life that will open you up to it, whether it's by something that happens to you, whether it's by one shock or another. It's always going to be something. But at some point, all of us, I reckon, get the chance to see beyond what is apparent, what is the illusion. The other side of the cycles that the world has been through and our disconnection from nature and from the source, we can get all upset about it and get all woeful. But on the other side, there is a great adventure to rediscovering what it is in this life, one person at a time. That possibility remains. And it's something that really keeps me going and keeps me investigating into all kinds of areas. I'm having a great time. As these things open up, I go, oh, that is interesting. Now let's see. Wow. That I did not expect. That I really did not expect. So things continue to come to us. The mystery deepens the longer you live. That's all I can say. And as Jimmy says, no audience is expected and none is required. Perfect. All righty then. Well, viewers, I hope you've enjoyed our dipping our toes into some of the magical realms. And if you have, please like, share, and subscribe. And I shall be back again very soon with something completely different. See you then. Bye for now.